Welcome to Karen's Conversations number 42. Today I have the great pleasure of talking to Jeanette Cremor, and we're going to explore everything project management. So without further ado, I'm going to say welcome, Jeanette, and I'm getting you to talk about yourself, your career highlights, and where you are today. Welcome.
Thanks, Karen. And hello, everyone who's watching and listening in. It's great to be here with you. And project management. Wow, where did I start? I actually didn't start in project management, which is probably not surprising, but I'm a country girl from Queensland, grew up on a farm. And so I think I had a lot of my practical experience around teamwork and just getting the job done on the farm. I think that's been my greatest teaching and learning about teamwork. But
Wow.
I left school at year 10 and I started working in a retail wholesale butcher shop, family business. And I learnt a lot about compliance and money, like budgets and the cost of items and profits and things like that. So that was kind of like my next biggest learning.
Wow, yeah.
And then I jumped into government. I sat the public sector exam back in those days, back in the 80s. We had to sit an exam, and so I was offered a role at Main Roads district office in Bundaberg, and I started working with engineers. And so that was kind of my first taste of project management, contract management, and the discipline of process and standards and how to actually engage the community to get roads built and bridges built and things like that. So kind of that was my taste. And then my daughter was 10 and I applied for a role in IT logistics in Brisbane. So I transferred to the Department of Transport in Brisbane in 1998. And that was my first taste of IT because I'd had a logistics background working with the engineers. It was just, and I shouldn't say just, but it was about learning new language and an acronym city. Oh my gosh, IT. They shorten everything. And as a logistics manager, running multi-million-dollar logistics budget for the department, I'm going, what the hell are you ordering? And then I get to see these big Sun servers delivered on a pallet at the back depot, and so that was kind of my grounding. And then from that, I've always been curious, and so I always ask a lot of why questions and how come and can we do it better, and can I get back some time, because if we had a better process we could have time back. And then they threw me into the PMO and said, well, roll out the project management methodology for all the project managers. And I went, okay, that's a bit of a challenge. And so that was my final, I think, icing on the cake. I've kind of had that whole practical lessons all my life. And then, so that's kind of how I started projects, helping other project managers understand what a methodology was. And I got a little bit of eat your own dog food when I said, well, give me a project and I'll try and, do it myself. And so, I had the call center relocation was my first big project, and oh my gosh, was there lessons in that one.
Wow.
So that I've just kind of maneuvered through government, Queensland government, communities, education, and then moved to Melbourne 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. I escaped employment and I wanted to try something different. And so I tapped into the contract landscape here, but stayed in the higher education sector. So I think Victoria, I found that people put you in a box of what you kind of industry you're from. And so they kind of went, oh, you're from education, I'll put you in an education box. And it's kind of probably the thing I'm trying to challenge now in the project management arena is don't box our skill set into an industry. It should be transferable. No matter what your industry is, project management is the same. It's just the different tools and techniques. But so jump ahead, and then 2 years ago, 2017, nearly 3 years ago now, but 2 years ago, I was kind of like tired of always picking up other people's projects. I became known as a project rescue specialist. So how to help projects get back on track. And I thought, okay, let's do some research. And I unpacked all my own projects, identified what the common success ingredients were. And from that, I developed what I call now my project ecosystem. And my project ecosystem talks about the success components for all projects, no matter the size, no matter the industry, no matter the outcome that they're trying to achieve. So that kind of helps me then prepare all my content, because I've got a framework that actually I can anchor it back into, and I've got practical examples of why projects work and don't work. And so, so that's a little bit about me. So now I'm out consulting, coaching, facilitating workshops, running programs, and loving what I'm doing.
That's brilliant. What a journey. That's the fascinating thing. From the farm to the butchers, and now look. What a learning experience. Last time we were talking, Jeanette, you told me that one of the hot topics at the moment is about the project sponsor and the project manager and the relationship, and you still called them the dynamic duo. Tell us a bit about that relationship.
Yeah, it's potentially could be my book when I finally get pen to paper. When I went through the project ecosystem and developed that in each one of my projects, I identified that the most important relationship you have is with yourself. And I really believe that you have to be the best version of yourself in a project. But if you look at your project sponsor, that to me, the project manager and project sponsor must have a trusted, open, honest relationship. Otherwise, the project is doomed for failure from the beginning. So when I went through all my research of my own projects and then talked to other people that are, leaders in projects around the world, and there's a lot of material. And if we refer to even Colin Ellis, he's a well-known global speaker. He wrote a book, Fish Rots from the Head, a lot about, the executive and things, whereas I probably don't amplify it that heavy. I just say things like the most important relationship other than yourself is with your sponsor. And I think that relationship is your dynamic duo, that no matter what issue or barrier you come across, that pair, that trusted relationship will overcome anything. And so I really believe invest in that relationship, and because the project sponsor has the intent and the interest of the organisation, the investment, what they're trying to achieve, and they're there for a long term. Like they're there, their reputation, and what they're trying to achieve. Whereas a project manager, we're there for a short time. We're there to facilitate the delivery of the solution. And so appreciating what keeps the project sponsor awake at night, understanding what the project sponsor needs to help him or her communicate to the rest of the organisation on the why, helping him or her with some key messaging that they can go out and champion the project for you. So for me, that dynamic duo is about them both understanding what we both need in our roles, both to communicate outwardly in the organisation, but then also inwardly, and then also invite the project sponsor into your team. Like I've had the best relationships where the project sponsor will rock up to our team meetings, our planning days, to a stand-up, or just pop in for what we used to have Fridays at 4:00 for wind down. Come and have a glass of wine and the small chat, and that comfort, that reliability, that it's not a us and them, I think is the most important relationship in any project.
Absolutely. And I just wanted to explore that a bit more. Do you think, or do you find that project sponsors actually understand what their role is, or is there a job of the project manager to help them understand what's required of them?
Absolutely. I think most project sponsors, my experience is that they have a full-time role. They're a general manager of marketing, they're a general manager of operations, they might be the CFO, whatever their normal
Mm.
daily role is, but then they get given this badge of honour going, well, now you're the project sponsor, and they're going, well, hang on a minute. So I really believe the project manager's role is absolutely that, is educating the project sponsor about what they need them to do to make the project a success.
Mm.
This is the role we need you to play to make the project successful. This is some of the things that how I like to work. How do you like to work? So having that invitation to be vulnerable and to actually not know all the answers. And that's kind of some of the coaching that I do with the project sponsors one-on-one, is that these are the questions you can be asking with confidence. They're not silly questions. They're not dumb questions. They're actually right questions. So for me, I like to kit up now the project sponsors with kind of a checklist of the things that they should be looking for and asking the project manager. But then in the flip side, working with the project manager and saying, well, hey, this is how the project sponsor's feeling. Have you thought about that they're stressed that you're going to come to them and ask for more money, and yet they've just been in a 2-day budget culling exercise, and so they've been told to cut their budget, and yet you're going to jump on top and say, oh, I need more. So it's about understanding one another's perspective, and the lens that you're looking through, I think, is the important thing.
Absolutely. Awesome stuff. Now, a lot of organizations, have an abundance of systems, tools, skills, all in aid of getting projects done. But project leaders continue to experience similar problems. You see things just being repeated. What would be the common problems that you see from your experience, and how do you get project managers or projects to overcome those problems?
Yeah, because I've done a lot of project rescues, I have a couple. I'll probably one or two I'll talk through, but a couple of things. I think it's square peg round hole, and what I mean by that is sometimes they ask the project sponsor to be a sponsor, and it's not them that should be it, but they did a great job last time. So they did a great job last time. We'll give them this responsibility to govern and lead the project. Or it could be the same way with the project manager. Oh, Jane did an awesome job last time. Jane's now available. Give Jane the role. And I find that we actually don't do a fit for purpose in our capabilities, that by a label or a title in our CV or in our HR system, this is the job title you have. I find that most times it's square peg round hole. The person might have skill sets, but it's not a match for the complexity of the change that they're going to have to implement. And so I find that's particularly one that I come across often, and I'm either coaching the project sponsor, the project manager, or even some of the external stakeholders on expectation, what their role is, how they can participate, because they've actually kind of trying to squeeze this peg and say, well, it should fit. I seen it work last time. And so that's one. And another one is the silver bullet. And I think I may have written about this recently. I'm not quite sure. I write a fair bit at the moment, but nothing published. And that's my naughty. I need to publish the articles rather than just writing them. I find that people will call something, huh?
I said, let's see them.
I find people will say, oh, I've got a 2-year project. And that already is warning bells for me, because I really believe if you can't attempt change incrementally and get it most of the benefit in a 6 to 9 month period, the project scope's too big. So I'm finding that people are calling programs projects, and they're not then breaking down a program of work into what I call, eating the elephant one bite at a time. So breaking it down into achievable, successful deliverables that give value and benefit back to the customer, the organisation, or sometimes it could be compliance. You might have to comply with a new regulation or a new directive. So if you're spending 2 years for a project, that's a warning sign for me that they're trying to bite off. They're trying to find this one project that's going to save them, rather than saying, hey, what can we do in 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, and have, project scope that's more chunked down, what we call, the old world. We used to call it a work breakdown structure. But yeah, something that's more achievable, because I find then that people get excited about the success.
Yeah.
Because if they're waiting for 2 years, you lose momentum, you lose engagement, people are switched off. We've heard it before. Here we go. We're going to wait another 2 years for something to happen. And so they're probably my top two is not a match of capability for the complexity of the solution. And there's not one silver bullet when we're trying to change.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's such a great insight, because if you've got a 2-year project, not only all the things that the symptoms that come that you say, but when you deliver at the end and you go, here you are, customer, they go, well, that's not what I want anymore. The world's changed, it's moved on. And you go, well, that's what you told us. Yeah, that was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So keep checking in what the business need and deliver. Yeah. So you have to do it incrementally. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of why understanding the environment that you're working in, that having that project sponsor and project manager that can then influence the way they're going to go about delivering it is so important. So they're kind of why I kind of use those two. Look, there's lots more, and there's a lot of research. We have annual reports from project management institutes. We have annual reports from KPMG, you name it. There's reports out there that give us the statistics. But they're probably my top two that I see all the time.
So that's a good segue into my next question, which you sort of touched on. And you said, projects should be solving the right problem at the right time, which sort of comes back from that incremental, make sure you're doing the right thing. Can we just explore that in a bit more detail?
Yeah, I was thinking about how I could share my insights into that, and I was thinking of an analogy and something that I think we've all experienced. So I'll use this analogy. You might have a problem with needing to transport more people, so you're going to add another plane to your fleet. Let's add some more routes to the fleet. Let's put another 10 jumbo jets in the air to get more passengers to more locations to get more profit. And so they'll invest in that, right? Have a new plane, have 10 new aircraft. But what they haven't invested is the infrastructure and the network around to support those 10 additional planes. So we don't have the runway capacity to allow those 10 planes to land and take off. Or we haven't added a new baggage carrier. So we've got now people waiting in, baggage, wait for because we haven't got enough capacity underneath the terminal to get the baggage off these 10 aircraft into. So what I find is that people look for the, not the shiny solution, but what they think people need to see to give them credibility and knowing that they're going to deliver benefit. Whereas I always try to say right problem, right time is sometimes it's just fine-tuning what you already have without investing a whole new, investment in assets or something. It might be fine-tuning your infrastructure. It might be fine-tuning your process. And I had that recently when I had an engagement at a passenger transport company recently, somewhere in Victoria. I spent a couple of days with them. They wanted to have personas, so how their staff use their technology. And they kind of said, Jeanette, can you help us understand and deliver some personas? And I said, well, why do you think it's personas that you need? They said, we've already agreed on this technology Office 365 and we're going to roll it out. And I went, woo. Hey, can we just pause for a moment? Great, we're going Office 365. Great, you're going to allow anywhere, anytime working. But let's just check in with the staff. And with within 2 days, they could have had more value delivered in 3 months by fine-tuning their existing processes. For example, they rolled out Teams to a pilot site, and Teams, just to help people, is a new feature in Office 365. It allows people to collaborate, store files, it's like chat. So it's a combination of document management, a collaboration tool. And they gave it to a pilot site, but they never had the features explained to them. And just by sitting with this team, I quickly worked out that if we spent a half a day with them, showing them how to best use the features for the role that they're doing, they would have had more productivity than stop using it. So what they did after about 3-4 weeks, they stopped using Teams because they didn't know how to incorporate it. So I said, rather than investing a huge rollout of Office 365, can we go back and just refresh our staff on, how to better use emails, how to better use collaboration tools? What is collaboration? Because when the technology comes, the behaviour's already there. So that's kind of why I say right problem, right time. Don't always throw the technology to solve the problem. Sometimes it's the underlying skill set of our staff or fine-tuning of a process that will make a significant difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you know, I've got an IT background as well, and the number of projects that have come out of IT departments who think we know best what the customer wants and just throw money away. And I remember one organization, I'll remain nameless, developed this awesome service catalog where the customer could go in and order things like laptops and reset passwords and do all this great stuff without having to call somebody, and automated process workflow behind it. And they delivered it and then wondered why no one was using it. And when you spoke to the business, the customer, they went, well, it's using language we don't understand. So IT was saying, this service A, where the business called it Fred, whatever it was, the navigation wasn't intuitive. The way it was categorized made no sense to the business because they'd never talked to them. And you go, seriously? It's so back to the drawing board. And then, as you know, Jeanette, the worst thing is the next time when you deliver it and you do involve the business, getting people to use it who experienced it the first time is even harder, so it's getting it right first time is so important.
And so that for me, and that's part of that, breaking down your program of work into the sequence of the change as well. So it's kind of like identifying what building blocks and what sequence we put them in so that it becomes more an embedded behavior before they actually get the change happening, kind of like you get them ready for the expectation. So when it does come, they go, oh yeah, no, that was cool. That was great. We've already been doing that. This will just help us, rather than, oh my God, we've got to change to allow this to happen. Well, no, let's get the behavior happening. So let's get people using their emails better. So when we integrate it with Office 365, that it's not going to be a whole new, oh my gosh, this is new. No.
Absolutely.
So for me, that's kind of what right problem, right time is.
Absolutely. And this is where the world of project management and organizational change management comes together. Brilliant.
Yeah, we rely on people like you.
And vice versa. And you use the phrase, projects are nothing without the people who lead them. So what are the qualities of a good project manager?
Yeah, and for me also, I probably want to throw in there something I'm a little bit controversial about, and that is that I don't believe project leadership is about the project manager. I think everyone that's in a project team must show up with the best version of themselves. So I look at project leadership in 3 sectors, and I look at self-leadership, which is all about me. What are my behaviors, my beliefs, my strengths. My practice leadership. So what's my discipline? And for me, it's project management, or whereas it might be a business analyst that's doing process reengineering, or it might be an architect that's providing solution recommendations. You have your own methodologies, and as yourself as an organizational change expert, you have your own toolkit, you have your own methodologies, you have your own way about going about something. So how are you helping the project team understand what you do to make sure that we're giving you what you need at the time that you need it? So that's what I call practice leadership. And the other one is approach leadership. And the other one is approach leadership for me is about making sure we don't try and apply the same technique to this project as what we did last time, because it's different stakeholders, it's different deliverables, it's different landscape, type thing. So when I talk about project leadership, I talk about those three sectors, and I really believe every project member must step up and provide project leadership when the team needs it the most.
Yep.
But if we talk about project managers, what I look for in a project manager is attitude before skill, if that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
We can help project managers learn a new tool. We can help project managers understand a process. But what we can't do is change their attitude. So if you look for a project manager, look for these sorts of things. Look for a project manager that is comfortable facilitating conversation. Look for a project manager that is able to repeat what you've said, and it might be a visual technique, it might be a written technique, but they need to be able to listen and understand what's going on around them, but repeat it back in a way that says to the person, I understand you. Also look for a project manager that kind of trusts their gut. So a project manager that understands their previous experiences and kind of understands, oh, hang on a minute, this isn't feeling right. I think if we keep going down this path, we're going to be in trouble. So find a project manager that's quite willing to be vulnerable, that says, I don't think we're okay. I don't think we're going to be on path. And so that they're okay at sharing what I call the truth, rather than presenting these status reports where we're all good, we're all green, we're all okay. And I talk about the project icebergs. So project icebergs are things that we see, but we actually don't really understand them until we look under the water.
Yeah.
We see that. Yeah. So project managers that are aware of their project icebergs, they can see things that could happen. So that kind of risk management, if you want to call it into some theory, but actually have an ability to include in their delivery, in their schedule, in their list of activities, whatever you want to call the work management, things that actually say, hang on, I need to check on this. So if we look at the theory, people call it emotional intelligence. I call it attitude, behavior, just who I am. So for me, a good project manager is all about the team, not themselves. A good project manager is about governance, but not controlling it. So they actually can facilitate the governance, but not control it. And a good project manager is someone that just likes to have fun and not be so serious.
Absolutely.
It's not War and Peace. Well, it may be for the Defence Force, and I'm thankful for the Defence Force. But the project managers that I work with, it's okay to have a bit of fun and laugh. I say in my podcast, a day without laughter is a day wasted. I really believe that.
Absolutely.
There can be some SHIT days in projects, and so having that bit of humour or that ability to just laugh at a mistake is great.
Because when you laugh, I would say, if you laugh in the face of adversity or something, you actually distance yourself psychologically. You distance yourself from it just by having that laugh, which gives you that chance to regroup and reassess and reflect or whatever. So it works really well. So just before we wrap, I just wanted to explore one more thing. You mentioned yesterday on LinkedIn that you look for organizations with a AAA rating. Tell us about that. I loved it.
I don't know where I got that from. I think I might have been working or doing some research with RACQ in Queensland, and they do a lot of AAA ratings of vehicles and accommodation and everything. So I kind of just stuck. And I went, oh, so AAA to me means, high end, it's consistent. And then I went, oh, if I look for an organisation with that, what does it look like? And so I just use that. So I talk about the AAA being analysed. So they actually analyse their performance, or they analyse the situation that they're in, the industry that they're in. They're always looking for new opportunities. They're always looking at how they can work better, how they can engage their team, more successfully. So the analysis, they're always analysing. And for me, when people analyse, they're looking for opportunity. They're not just looking for the bad news, they're looking for the good news. And the second A is act. So when they do find that opportunity, or they do find in that analysis something they can do, they act on it. They don't just think about it, they act on it. So they actually do something. And then when they've done that, they then adapt the rest of the organisation that has to make sure that they can continually perform. So it's kind of like this cycle of the AAA, like analyse, act and adapt. So I look for organisations that have that kind of behaviour, or they talk about it, or I can see it when I walk in. And some of the things that you can look for, whiteboards. If you can see whiteboards with a lot of scribble on, that to me is an sense that an organisation is they analyse a lot, or they act a lot because they're collaborating, they're kind of brainstorming, they're trying to solve problems. So that's just a simple thing to look for. I know it might be, but a whiteboard can normally give you a cue.
Absolutely.
If it's blank, probably turn around and walk out. but if it's got a lot of scribble on it, or sticky notes, or go for it. It's an active organisation. They just love to collaborate and solve problems.
Yeah, just looking for that sign of activity and collaboration. Absolutely. Yeah. So Jeanette, this has been a great conversation. I think we could just keep talking all morning, which would be awesome. So where can people find out more about you?
So JeanetteCremor.com.au is my website. Yes, like a plumber, it has a leaking tap, and as a PM, I haven't scheduled a refresh of the content. But my podcast page is probably my most updated content on my website at the moment. But look out, new content's coming. The other thing is probably LinkedIn. Connect with me on LinkedIn, Jeanette Cremor, JC, most people call me. And just shoot me a connect and we'll catch up and have a chat. So that's probably the two best ways.
Awesome. Jeanette, it's been great. Thank you so much for joining me on Karen's Conversations.
Thank you, Karen. Bye.
Bye.